Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our public business meeting for Thursday, July 11th, 2013 at 5 o'clock. Gentlemen, are there any additions or deletions to our agenda?
Yes. Commissioners, as you know, we each received a communication from the Board of Education requesting that we release $190,000 to them that was set aside for school security if performed by the sheriff, and for mental health studies to be performed by the health department. So I would like to have a discussion on this tonight, and possibly we could list it under our action agenda as item 2A, or do you want to make it number 2 and move the other to 2A?
2A. It'll be first, 2A.
Okay.
So is it? I assume that is a motion?
Yes.
Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to create the first agenda item under our action from the Board of Education request of funds. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay. I'd like to entertain the approval of our minutes of our June 27th, 2013 business meeting.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
It has been moved by Commissioner Brody, seconded by Commissioner Valentine. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Just moving right along. I have nothing to report this evening. Item number 1, Mr. Jenkins. The Roof Center. Welcome, sir.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yes, sir.
I appreciate the time to introduce myself and the Roof Center to Allegany County. March 1st, the McClure-Johnston Company changed to the Roof Center on 11201 Pittsburgh Plate Glass Road. We are a building supply distributor. We distribute both to contractors and the public. We offer things such as roofing material, siding, windows, doors, decking products, low slope commercial roofing. Pretty much if it goes on the exterior of a building, we dabble in it a little bit. We also have some interior products, moldings, cabinets, countertops as well. We are about 20 branches strong for the Roof Center all over Maryland and the Virginia area. We share materials from each store, so we have quite a bit of material that's at our reaches. Each city and branch has its own little niche of some materials. We've got such as like the Bethesda branch is basically our real slate house. So there's thousands and thousands upon thousands of pieces of different kind of slates for real slate roofing. There's real cedar shake roofing. We offer products from Certainteed, GAF, Owens Corning, James Hardy fiber cement products, Firestone, sheet metal, you name it. We are looking to be the leading distributor across this area. We service Pennsylvania and West Virginia as well. We are part of a larger company called Beacon Roofing Supply, which purchased McClure-Johnston and had already owned the Roof Center prior to that. There's over 220 different branches with Beacon Roofing Supply among quite a few different roofing companies, and that's across all the United States and Canada as well. I just wanted to introduce myself to everybody and make everyone aware that we're out there now. We're in the market. One of our specialties is Rooftop Delivery for shingles. We actually have a crane with a 65-foot reach, and we will actually stock shingles on the roof for a contractor or a homeowner without them having to be present and have to put the shingles on the roof themselves. So that's one thing in this area that we're the only people that do that in the area, that carry the insurance to be able to do that. So, basically out of the distributors around this area, it's 84 Lumber, Lowe's, and now us, apart from others, local independent yards
Okay.
that are available.
Okay.
So,
You had mentioned about in the Bethesda, that's where I knew the Roof Center. I'm born and raised in Montgomery County, and I knew that name for many years. And you said that that's where their specialty is slate, so a lot of the old roofing, stuff like that.
Correct.
Commissioner Valentine was born in a cave. He's that old. And so which department would have the cave roofing, if we wanted to make it, hometown? Now, this is where he'll say...
It's a natural stone roof.
It's a natural stone. But this is where he'll say he's glad you have that crane and then talk about my weight. So, it's a volley back and forth. But that being the case, well, thank you very much for sharing with us, and congratulations. And hopefully you'll be able to sell lots of roofing products and that kind of stuff, because we want to see Allegany County grow.
Yes,
Commissioners?
I appreciate that.
Absolutely.
Thank you for
Thank
coming.
you very much.
Thank you for your time. Thank you very much.
Yes, sir. Wonderful. Good news.
I thought he was born in a teepee. I didn't think he was that old.
That was my second home.
Oh, okay.
That's where he got that whole bow hunting thing. All right, I'm going to get in trouble. Okay, moving right along into our action agenda. Gentlemen, we did add to our agenda 2A, the letter from the Board of Education requesting the funds. Commissioner Valentine, you sit on the Board of Education. You were at their meeting when they passed all this. Why don't you go ahead? You want me to, I guess we should read this into the record and then turn it over to you for any comments. This is dated July 10th, 2013, addressed to the Board of Commissioners of Allegany County. Dear Commissioners McKay, Brody, and Valentine. At its monthly meeting on July 9th, the Allegany County Board of Education voted to accept the recommendations of the School Safety and Security Committee and hire retired police officers to provide school security in the schools outside Cumberland and Frostburg for the 2013-2014 school year. At the encouragement of Commissioner Bill Valentine, we formally request the funds to implement this action from the $190,000 which you have set aside for security. While it is too early to determine the exact costs, because they are not certain how many officers it will take to adequately cover the affected schools, it is likely to be 3 or 4 officers. There will be some other associated costs, not all of which are completely obvious at this time. We expect these costs to include such items as a brief training and certification programs, and perhaps sidearms and other associated equipment. There may also be need for mileage reimbursement. Since the vote is so recent and there's a lot to do, we still have to work to do with regard in this effort. At any rate, we would like to have the monies transferred to the Board of Education in an account that would be separate and earmarked for the purpose, or to have it set up in such a way to be drawn down upon the appropriate personnel with supervisory responsibility in a manner acceptable to yourselves, as well as the Board of Education. Perhaps our respective financial staff members could work out the details for more expedient implementation. We are also supportive of the Sheriff's efforts to pursue a grant to obtain 3 full-time school resource officers. Not necessarily to replace the retired police officers, but to provide better coverage for the schools. They would be a welcome addition. The Board of Education does believe it needs a voice in the selection of such officers, as well as their assignments, school duties, and evaluation performance. All areas to be addressed in a MOU. Thank you for your support in the provision of the security services to all the children of Allegany County. Sincerely, Edward L. Root, President of the Board of Education, and David A. Cox, Superintendent of Schools. This was also carbon copy, gentlemen, to our administrator and the members of the Board of Education. Well, how do we get to this point?
Okay, first of all, for clarification, where the second paragraph states, at the encouragement of Commissioner Bill Valentine, we formally requesting the funds. I did not encourage them to request the funds. After they took their vote, they asked me how they could go about accessing the funds. I told them that that decision could not be made by any one commissioner. It would take a vote of 2 commissioners, and I suggested that either the full board or at least one representative attend this meeting so we could have a discussion. So to me, it was rather a disappointment to receive this letter by email rather than having anybody from the Board of Education here to enter into a discussion of such an important issue. Some of the problems I saw with the vote and some of the discussion that was taken there, the first thing was the commissioners have made it very clear that school security would have to include the private schools as well as the public schools. Early on in the meeting, the Board of Education's Chief of Security, Bob Farrell, stated upon being questioned that the officers that they would hire would have authority on Board of Education property only, nowhere else. In fact, board member Mike Llewellyn gave the example. He said, if this person was at Walmart and saw a crime being committed, would he have any legal authority? The answer was no. With the special authority these people would be given, they could only have legal authority on Board of Education property. When they asked for the county to send them all the funds, I told them, number one, no matter what the decision of the commissioners was, before we could make any decision, we would have to have a discussion with the private schools. So we know whether they wanted to accept the sheriff's program or what they wanted to do. And at that time, it was stated, well, the Board of Education will give the protection to the private schools also. So on one hand, we had their security chief saying their authority is limited to Board of Education property, and then just a few minutes later, they said those officers would also somehow have authority to do the private schools. I don't think that that would be the case. I think their only authority would be with the public schools. So to me, that's a rather large issue because we have stated that we would provide protection to the private schools as well as the public schools. Also, after the meeting, I questioned one of the board members about whether or not they had vehicles for these officers they were thinking about hiring. The answer was no, and yet the officers are going to be traveling between the schools. Flintstone itself is 15 miles one way from Cumberland, so you're talking about a 30-mile round trip 5 days a week, 150 miles a week. So I think if an officer is going to want a vehicle to drive, they talked about paying mileage. Well, you stop and think just paying mileage for the number of miles these officers be riding, it'd be quite a bit of money over a year's time. Then the next day, Dr. Root was talking about this issue on WCBC, and he was asked if the Board of Education could do the program as inexpensively as what the Sheriff's Department could. Dr. Root's answer was that the Sheriff's proposal was $60,000 a year per hired employee to act as guards, and they would only be spending about $31,000 to $32,000 per year. In fact, I said at the public meeting when the sheriff spoke, I've got the written documents the sheriff gave to everybody that was at that meeting, including the full board, and it very clearly states that the sheriff would pay approximately $15 an hour because he wouldn't want to pay these part-time individuals more than what his own full-time deputies are making, and the deputies have a much more involved job. So basically, the sheriff's proposal was $15 an hour, 7 hours a day, 180 days a year, which actually comes up to around $19,000 a year. So, I don't know if the board was confused about what the sheriff's offer was. That they had it in writing, but I would have a real concern about paying so much more for the same exact job performed. Also, there would be a question of the Board of Education securing firearms, getting the people the proper certifications for that. And another concern I would have would be communications between these officers. Are they going to have security officers in schools spread out across the county and not have communications between those officers in case something occurs? And plus, what's their communications going to be with outside police forces in case they need assistance and need it fast? What kind of communications are they going to have with these officers? These are all unanswered questions, and I would like to ask the sheriff to come forward, and maybe you can shed some light on some of these things. And also, my thinking is there should not even be any discussion of releasing funds until we talk about security with the private schools, and until the health department has presented their offer to the Board of Education, because our funds were to pay the sheriff to perform these duties and also to pay for the programs that the health department could offer. Sheriff?
You have a question?
I got tons of questions. Is it right that these officers that would be have a special law enforcement certificate, I guess, isn't it true that they would only be able to perform that service on the property of the people that they're working for?
That's correct. When you come to a Maryland Special Police Commission, that's given out by the governor, but it's given out through the Secretary of the Maryland State Police, Lieutenant Brown, Lieutenant Colonel Brown. With that being said, when you obtain a Special Police Commission, it's for that particular body. In this case, if the Board of Education obtains that, which they're able to do so, it's only for their property. They can't extend that to other businesses, private and or public. The commissioners, you could present that. However, you could open up basically to any county building within the county, because you have control over all those buildings. But no, if you do a Special Police Commission and they're assigned to the public schools, they would not be able to act on anything that occurs on our private schools, whether it be Bishop Walsh, Calvary, Christian Academy, Lighthouse. If they observe something occurring there, they would have to act the same way as a private citizen.
And basically, if the people were hired through the sheriff's department, those people would have legal authority in all areas?
Yes, if they were hired and we gave them a Special Police Commission, my understanding is under me that they would be anywhere in the county that I would designate them to have that.
Sheriff, can you speak to how you would handle the question of like firearms and vehicles? I know you just don't have a ton of stuff. You run a very tight ship, but how would you address? Would it be a mileage thing that you would be looking at, or would you be able to maybe find some cars that could be shared or something?
It's again, these are all issues that really do need to be discussed, but it's one of the things that we've held off until we find out exactly where we're going with this whole issue. If I'm not mistaken, I believe the county, it's correct me if I'm wrong, Jason, is it 56 cents a mile? Is that what the mileage is? As Commissioner Valentine mentioned, if you have to travel to Flintstone and back 5 days a week, approximately 150 miles, multiply that by 56, you're in the area of probably, $75, $80 a week is what you're going to pay just to that particular school. And we're doing with a total of 12 schools. These individuals, we want to be there at least once a day. We want checks made at different times, in different patterns, so that there's not a set pattern that the officers are going to. I think it's more feasible. If we take an extra vehicle that we have somewhere and use it for that purpose. I think it would be a cheaper situation for the taxpayers and for the county by using vehicles that we can come up with. I have a few right now that we're doing a surplus. That's mainly why I was here tonight, was for the surplus vehicles. But we have one or two spare vehicles that we could use for that particular purpose, and I think that would save the county taxpayers money doing that more so than trying to pay personal vehicle and 56 cents a mile. I think that's going to be extremely high after a while.
Okay. I know that time is of the essence, and I know that the Board of Education has communicated that they wanted to have this in place day one, the first day of do you feel that through your committee's recommendation, do you feel you can do that, to have those security officers in place?
If we're, again, if we're dealing just with security officers and not looking at school resource officers, as long as the availability is out there for the retired officers that are interested, we can have them at least available for the security part of it. The other thing that you have to understand is whenever you apply for a Maryland Special Police Commission, there's approximately, whether it's us, whether it's the Board of Education, you're still looking at approximately a 90-day time period by the time we're able to conduct a background investigation. That background investigation has to be done by, I think, the Maryland State Police. So no matter what, and that's only for getting somebody in the schools that has police powers. It would take that length of time. You can still have security officers there. If it's retired police officers, they're allowed to carry firearms because they are retired under the law. So we could still do that part, yes.
Okay. There was some question about DARE officers. Who's qualified to be a DARE officer? If I was a DARE officer and I was in charge of 5 or 6 people, could I then pass that down that these 5 or 6 people are now DARE officers just because I was the supervisor who was a DARE officer?
No, and actually I checked on that earlier today. Technically, with DARE America, who oversees the DARE program throughout the United States, not just in Maryland, throughout the United States, they do have a policy that it is a sworn police officer that teaches DARE within the school, and they have to do that in uniform. That's one of the requirements. However, I did find out that over the years, because of budget restraints with certain departments and things like that, they have become somewhat lax on that, and they have allowed retired police officers to teach DARE in schools. However, there does have to be a waiver. The waiver has to be agreed upon by DARE America and sent to them, which in this situation I would not see a problem with that. But I was under the impression prior to today that it was still etched in stone that they had to be a sworn police officer and in uniform. There is some waivers and a little bit of leniency now with the DARE America, but they still, in essence, look at having sworn police officers, current police officers teaching DARE. That's what they like, but there is a waivers available.
When you're talking sworn police officer, would these part-time people that would be hired by the Board of Education under this special power, would they meet that requirement, or does it take like a full-time?
They're actually the paperwork online and through Maryland DARE says that they'll be a full-time sworn police officer. But again, talking to DARE and explaining them the situation, they said that the individuals, if they were in fact a prior police officer, retired, and they would meet the qualifications and everything, that they could get waivers for that purpose.
Okay, that's good. The other question that I have, sir, is through this committee's recommendation that this would fall under the Sheriff's Department, how would you go about working with the Board of Education where it comes to like assignments of schools? Would you like maybe have a liaison there with the Board of Education? Would they be included in these decisions, or would you be setting up a playbook and saying, this is what it's going to happen? What would be your plan?
Commissioners, I feel that this is something again, and the Board of Education has been correct. This is regards to me at least about the kids. It's about nothing else. And in order for this whole process to work, I think between my office, if in fact I'm the individual that oversees it, if that's the case, between the Sheriff's Office, the Board of County Commissioners, and the Board of Education all need to sit down and come up with a plan that's going to work. This thing is not going to work in my mind if it's going to be a battle where someone's going to disagree with this schedule or whatever. This is something that we need, and that's why we can't, at least I can't etch anything in stone as to what's going to happen, is because I do need to sit down with the Board of Education and get their ideas on things. My recommendation was threefold. One was the premier thing, which would have been to have school resource officers, so that besides having them in the school, watching the doors, checking that, they can also teach the kids the DARE program, teaching them to make good decisions throughout life, and also kind of intervening in some issues. The second one was just if the Board of Education, that's where we come to this point, if the Board of Education says they don't necessarily want these people teaching DARE program in the schools, then we can always resort back to the retired police officers, which would be a savings to the county. However, you may not be getting as much out of them as what you would a school resource officer. And the third one would be really to combine both. You could have a school resource officer or two that could still travel from school to school and teach the DARE program, but also have maybe two more individuals of a lower rate working there and going door to door or school to school, just making sure that the security part of it is taken care of. But again, all these things, whether it's 1, 2, or 3 is picked, or whether it's a whole different program that's picked, it's got to be something that's agreeable between the Board of Education, myself, and also to the commissioners, to yourself.
Do you think emergency communications with outside officers would be better through people that you hired rather than through possibly people at the Board of Education? Can you see a communication lapse? Or
I would think that it would be better. I mean, the problem you would have with that is if you did have an individual that's assigned to a school and an incident occurs, if that individual actually has a radio communications directly to law enforcement, the sheriff's officer or whatever, they don't have time to pick up a phone and say what's going on. They're right there. They're able to transmit that information in a split second and have additional units come to assist them if needed.
So that would increase the safety factor quite a bit.
The other issue that I do have that's never kind of been brought up with is sometimes in these schools, I know with the resource officer that I do have right now, he's involved and deals with situations with kids, and it may not be a criminal type act that's going on. It may just be a disciplinary action between the school, and maybe the child is removed from school or told you need to go home, and mom and dad can't show up. The other thing is whether or not, I'm just wondering whether the board has figured out how are they going to transport these kids, because we do several transports, not a load, but Deputy Bernard does transport kids even from other schools back to their home, from Frostburg all the way down to Cumberland. And again, it falls back, is that going to put another strain on local law enforcement where now, if we're not in the schools dealing with it, then we're still going to have to free up an officer somewhere along the way and send them up there to deal with the situation and do the transport for them. We dealt with this recently with with juvenile services. It always seems like things falls back on law enforcement. Juvenile services just made a change where now that they're transportation officers, you don't call them out to transport juvenile offenders that they want taken to different locations. If we arrest a juvenile nowadays and they want him put in Hagerstown, my guys have to babysit them until that decision is made, and then they also are required to transport them all the way to Hagerstown. If it's a female, the closest female unit to take that person is on the Eastern Shore. So, I could have a guy at 8 o'clock in the evening that arrests a female, and they say, we want her put into detention. And they may have to travel all the way, figure out a way, we got to travel all the way down to the Eastern Shore. It's always falling back on law enforcement's responsibility without even asking us, basically, and we don't have the manpower to do those type of things. So all those things have to be decided on, or at least looked at when we're making these decisions.
And to me, the greatest school security would be to stop somebody before they ever got to the school building. Do you feel that if the people working in the school building were working with the sheriff's department, they hear something from the students and all, they would have that direct link to the sheriff's department, to where the sheriff's department could possibly start an investigation outside the school building?
I guess you're referring to having a rapport. The big thing I've talked about is having a rapport with these kids. These kids know what's going on. They are a great source of information for law enforcement. And I mentioned just before, if I put one of my DARE officers, or Cumberland City puts one of their DARE officers in the middle of one of the schools that they teach, in a matter of 5 minutes, they'll have 10 or 15 students standing around carrying on with them, talking to them, telling them what they did last night, what they heard, whatever. If I go and stand in the middle of that same hallway, I'm not going to have anybody come around and talk to me. It's just because I don't have the rapport that these officers. That's why I think it's essential that whatever we do, there are individuals that don't change day to day from these schools. It's the same individual that would be at Flintstone School Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, not Monday so-and-so's there, Tuesday, because you have to pull from a large group of people to do this. You're going to lose a lot of valuable information. And as you said, lots of times in the safety committee's report, they found that a lot of these kids actually had some type of information prior to an incident occurring. Now, maybe they didn't, I look at it, maybe they just didn't have somebody that they felt comfortable walking up to and saying, hey, this is what I heard. That's what we want. We want to get the information out so we can stop something, God forbid, that would happen in one of our schools.
And I would think that if one of your officers got that information in the school with a rapport with the students, it would be transferred to your office, to where your department could start looking into what they've heard outside the school building, to where if they were hired by the Board of Education, that communication between that officer and your department may not be as easy of a flow.
I would hope that would not happen in that instance, but it makes it a little easier when you're working under one agency like that. You're able to pass that information along. Anytime we ever get information, whether it's from the Board of Education or one of our officers, that they overheard a threat of some sort, we're required, and we do act on it and initiate an investigation to make sure that whether it's true, whether it's a rumor or false, just to ensure that the kids are safe in the schools.
Well, Sheriff, I have a question on, I'll get back to the funding source of this. As you well know, we got about $190,000 for this, and not all that can be directed to you or whoever, because there's a mental health aspect of this that's going to come into play. With your plan, you could implement, and you have equipment available. You're not asking for this money then plus.
No, I have some equipment available. Yes.
Yes. Okay. Because I did hear that on the radio the other day when I was listening to it. Dave was going to ask for $190,000+ plus money for equipment, for sidearms, cars, this and that, transportation money, this and that. And the way I understood it, looking at your plan, that was all included kind of in the price that you told us. I mean,
again, it is one of those things. This is something new. We're starting this, so there are bumps along the road that we're going to look at. But generally, yes, we should be in fairly good shape when it comes to equipment.
If we had an open checkbook, no problem would be.
Well, we'd all be happy.
And going back to Creed's point about the expense that the Board of Education would incur, their motion Tuesday night was that basically it was a one-year deal. And then at the end of that 1 year, they would look at it, see if they wanted to add officers, remove officers, or if they had SROs available, then they might not need these. And if they go out and they spend all this money maybe to get vehicles and get firearms, and then all of a sudden they don't need them, that's a lot of money basically down the drain. If you have vehicles, if you have an extra firearm or two, well, that's what you need anyway. It's
Right.
not going to go to waste. It's not wasted funds. It's
We always
what
have
you
we
need
always have
anyway.
equipment. It's nice to have a backup in case something,
Right.
one of our equipment, goes bad, something happens to it while we're having it repaired. We have a replacement. It's always nice to try to have that within the department, which we try to do.
Well, I'm not sure what.
Ask another question.
As I said, a lot of these questions until somebody says exactly what we want out of this program. Like I said, there's three that I offered. One from the police officers, new hires. The only thing good about that too is during the summer months. Of course, everybody claims that during the summer months you have an extra body out there to help. Especially summertime, we're always busy, but that's not necessarily true, because whenever you hire these officers, they have to have their regular training per year to keep their certification up. Then during the school year, they usually don't get to take their vacation because the kids are in school, so they use their vacation in the summertime. So all in all, right now my school resource officer that I have, he's got a broken foot. So he's been of no help to me so far this summer. He's healing, getting ready for the school year. So those things happen.
Just
We got a little sidebar going over
Sorry,
That's fine.
Okay. Commissioners, any other questions, concerns? The thing that, this has to stop tonight.
Yeah,
A
absolutely.
A decision needs to be made to have in place by the first school year so that our children are as safe as possible. We are never, ever, evil will always do what evil's going to do. You can never be 100% safe, but we do need to make the first step in making this happen. I think there's been enough communication back and forth, and at the end of the day, everybody agrees we need to have some form of security and safety. Where that relies and who's responsible for it is the disagreement. Gentlemen, I would like to make a motion that we accept the sheriff's recommendation to go ahead and hire the security officers under his direction, and for him to explore the grants and issues to go ahead and hire up to 3 SROs to either replace or enhance that security force that will be in place the first of the year. The only caveat that I add to that, yes, sir.
May I say one thing first?
Yes, sir.
I forgot. In regards to, and I know it was mentioned on grants, one thing I would like the commissioners to understand too on that, we did apply for one SRO. Whenever this thing first happened, the grant actually had to be in by June the 4th. That was the cutoff date. So we went ahead and filled out the paperwork for that position. However, because of the size of Allegany County, we were only able to apply for one. It goes by, I guess the number of citizens in your area or something, but we only were able to apply for one. So I did want to at least give you that information. We put in, and I think the way the grant was written, that we could put in a request for more, and if, I guess, the COPS and more grant committee sees fit, they could allow us additional officers, but technically we were only allowed one. I did talk to Barbara Mikulski's office. I did talk to Senator Cardin's office, and we did have letters of support sent from both of those individuals to the COPS More grant, asking them to consider Allegheny County due to our area, our financial situation, and things like that, hoping that that would help. But I wanted to make sure the commission understood that. We were only allowed at this point just to apply for them. I've heard nothing back from the grant people yet as to regards to that.
Okay, thanks for coming to the microphone. And let's talk, Sheriff, real quick. Let's talk about the hiring process for SROs.
Okay.
Let's assume for a moment that the Board of Education will be receptive to the inclusion of 3 additional SROs in the program. Now, that's an assumption. At this point in time,
I understand.
they do have the right to, expect an MOU, and if they don't enter into an MOU with the Sheriff's Office, then we'd be hiring 3 additional patrol officers and finding other jobs for them to do. So bear in mind, if you were to select 3 new, let's talk about the selection process here and the training process and of the SROs. We talked earlier this week, if you were to be given the green light and the funding to do it, at this point in time, do you have a list, an eligibility list in place, or would we have to go back out and re-advertise and retest and interview?
We do have an eligibility list right now because we had actually had to hire a replacement deputy. One of our deputies had left and gone to another agency, so we had an opening. We do have several on that list. Again, we haven't gone any further with the hiring process, so some of those people, you wash out for different reasons, so we haven't continued that, but I do have a list at this point that is available.
Okay. So what might be the earliest time frame that we could actually select 3 candidates and have them ready for an academy?
If we had them on our list, we could have a selection in a matter of maybe first part of April.
First part of
Week,
April.
yeah. And the thing in regards...
First August or April?
August.
Okay.
I'm sorry. August.
When's the first academy we might be able to...
It varies. The main academy is located in Sykesville, Maryland, and Maryland State Police Academy is there along with all the other agencies. However, I don't know what their dates are. It's usually maybe January and July. Okay. However, there are other police agencies such as PG County, Baltimore City, Baltimore County that have their own academies, and they run them at different times. So you can always I can always reach out, look at those other counties to find out if they have anything available any sooner. Or again, we have actually 1 year from the date of hire in order for that person to be entered into an academy. And it would be nice if that's the case of looking at maybe the partial academy running during the summer months whenever school is out. So that would alleviate that problem of not having as much manpower to schools for less time. If we can use June, July, and August of next year, that means you're only talking 3 months and versus the full 6 months of the school year that you'd have them out.
Well, understand that there are program needs for the Sheriff's Office, program needs for the Board of Education, but we have $190,000 to play with. And so, Commissioners, I'll just, Mike, before you complete your motion, I just want to provide some additional background information.
First of all, I'm going to withdraw that.
Okay.
Because we'll have to start from here.
Okay, well, just, again, allow me to conclude that if we were using the numbers that we received on Monday, the annual cost for a single patrol deputy is approximately $60,000 per year. We're looking at something in the order of $180,000 a year total. If the selection were made in an academy and a candidate identified and brought on the payroll, let's say January 1, and enrolled in an academy in January, they could be completed within 6 months or be finished sometime before July and then have the requisite training to be in place. So we'd be talking about something in the order of $90,000 there for that period of time. So you'd have essentially what's left is $100,000 that we need to evaluate how much of which we could segregate for school security detail, how much of it we could actually earmark for any program arrangement that the Board of Education is able to arrange with the health department. So fortunately, we just don't have unlimited resources. And there's a lot of balls in the air here. I have it on good authority, though, that the livestock may already be out of the corral. The Board of Education is already taking steps to hire the security detail. They may even be running an ad in the newspaper sometime in the next couple of days for that. So, fortunately, we have 3 different bodies here, and they're not working in unison at this point in time. And I'll conclude with that.
Okay.
But basically, your suggestion is to move ahead with the SROs from day one using the 190 that we've got?
No, I think...
I'm not so sure we could get them in place.
No, I think whatever motion we come up with has to, if an MOU can be created with the Board of Education to use these SROs, then therefore we have not committed hiring employees. We create some kind of a motion to hire the security officers to get them in place for the first is one part of it. Second of all is if the sheriff can create an MOU with the Board of Education for the SROs, that's the second part. And then the third that I would add to it is to encourage the sheriff, which I do believe he would do, is to work with the Board of Education to communicate with them that they had a voice in how this all program was going to be laid out. It is in their schools, and we have to get 100% buy-in from them for this. So I want them to have a stake in it. But at the end of the day, I just believe that the funds, gentlemen, should stay and go to the Sheriff's Department for implementation on this.
And the only thing I'd like to caution just commissioners is that the Board of Education is, I think, tentatively scheduled a meeting with the Health Department on July the 24th to discuss a mental health program partnership between those two entities. And again, at this point in time, we're not entirely sure if the board's going to accept that proposal from the Health Department and then what the exact cost will be. So there's a lot of unknowns at this point in time.
I guess one of the things I'd like to ask is we need to address this letter first and foremost. We need to get this out of the way because, and I'll put my 2 cents worth in, I am not in favor of funding an additional police force in Allegany County or even going down that road. So the first thing we need to do is address this letter that was addressed to 3 of us before we go any further. So how do we want to sum that up, Commissioner?
You want to make a motion?
I'll make a motion that I guess we'll have to put form it that our money set aside for school security could only be spent through the Sheriff's Department and the Health Department. How's that?
Does that address?
I'll second that motion.
Okay.
So now we can move into some more discussion, right? What my thought was, we got 190 set aside this year.
Right.
All right, and if we spend this money, we're sort of locked into it becomes maintenance of effort. So we're going to have 190 or more set aside each and every year afterwards. The Board of Education.
Can I interrupt you on that technicality? If you give the money to the Board of Education, it is maintenance of effort. If it is spent to the Sheriff's Department, it is not.
Well, that's where I was leading, yes. So, I don't know if we want to get locked into increasing maintenance of effort for this program, especially since the Board of Education has said themselves, this is a one-year deal. We may decide to change things drastically. Well, if we give the 190 this year, then we're going to give it next year too, even if they decide, well, we no longer want these officers. The other thing I was looking at is, if nothing else, with this 190, if the Board of Education has already said they want to hire their own guards, Mr. Everly, I think, says he feels that they've already started that process. We can't force them to take anybody that the sheriff would hire. So we can say, well, the money's going to go to him, and they could just say, well, it doesn't matter, we're going to hire our own. So my thought would be, why not use our 190 to pursue SROs?
Tim?
We would stay totally out of the armed guard business. If they want to hire their own guards to take care of the first year at their expense, they've sort of made that decision. We've got this 190. They're saying that they'd like to have a combination of SROs as well as these armed guards. We've got that 190 that at $60,000 a year, if we can find those people, that's 180, and we're going to have a year and a half before we have that full bill to pay, sounds like. So we could offer to use this 190 to hire SROs through the Sheriff's Department.
Only if the Board of Education and the Sheriff's Department come up with an MOU.
Right. As long as they agree to it. I mean, we can't force them. We can't force them to take armed guards hired by the sheriff. So if we make a motion, well, we're going to do this through the Sheriff's Department, Board of Education could say, no, you're not, because we're not going to take those guards. And they sort of made their decision. So I think we have to have a communication with them saying, the funds that we have, we are willing to use to hire armed guards if you want to, and then it may be a long time down the road. Those armed guards will be hired through the Sheriff's Department, but it's going to take a long time to get to your SRO funding. Or if you want to stick with your own program to hire the armed guards, we will use our funding that was set aside for SROs.
No.
Sheriff, any thoughts?
Mr. McKay, any thoughts?
I would just feel comfortable with the money going to the Sheriff's Department to use how he sees fit if they can enter into an MOU with the Board of Education. Public safety is his responsibility. So, and I'm not going to sit here and dictate to him or anyone else how he should spend his money. My motion is that the money go to the Sheriff's Department and the Health Department for the mental health side of it. That's it.
Well, we've already got the motion in the second. We've already
Yeah.
seconded Creed's motion.
Okay.
Ready for a vote?
All right, we'll call for the question. Commissioner Valentine.
Aye.
Commissioner Brody.
Aye.
Commissioner McKay. Aye. Motion carries. Okay. Somebody else want to make a motion about
Motion that.
to spend the 190 for the RSOs if
I'll make a motion that we reach out to the Board of Education and just explain that if they are firm in their commitment to hire their own armed guards to get them through the first year and possibly to become permanent positions, that we would be willing to use the funds we've set aside to start hiring SROs. May not be 3 of them. We might only look at, depending on what the mental health side is going to be, we might only use $120,000, which would be 2 SROs. But those are people that the board seems to want. There's got to be a way of funding them, so we could do it that way.
Okay, but just for the point of order, your motion is to hire SROs, not to set the number right now.
No,
Just the concept.
just to start
well,
hiring SROs.
well, he's not made his motion yet, correct?
Yeah, he made a motion.
That was a motion, sir.
I think that's what I heard.
You second it and get a discussion, and we can amend the motion if that's what you got in mind.
Okay, I'll second the motion. And we'll have discussion. would you be interested in amending it up to 3 SROs
Yes, that's fine.
with the approval and direction
It all goes
of
through the sheriff's
the
department.
sheriff? It's his bailiwick.
Right. His funding to hire SROs as he sees the need.
Okay.
Up to 3.
Up to 3. This can't be some open-ended.
And subject to an MOU with the Board of Education?
That is correct.
Okay.
As amended, have you seconded the amendment?
I will second it as the amended,
Got it.
but I think for clarity,
Well, we restate the motion.
we would like to have the motion restated.
I'll make a motion that we use the set-aside funds that we have to hire up to 3 school resource officers through the sheriff's department. Everything would be done at his discretion. I said up to 3,
Right. But the MOU part
but upon a signed MOU with the Board of Education.
and the sheriff.
Yes.
Wow. I think you've got it.
All right. I'll second that.
There you go.
So you can have some comment now.
I'm good.
Okay. We'll call for the question. Commissioner Valentine?
Aye.
Commissioner Brody?
Aye.
Commissioner McKay? Aye. Motion carries. Okay.
Bill, I was about to clear his mind, okay?
Okay.
Tape. You got the tape.
Matthew got every word of that, I can tell. In fact, he's still writing. He's on the first.
Yeah, I was going to say, how about the press? Are you guys clear on this?
Crystal, huh?
Crystal.
I think it was Dr. Root made some kind of a comment. At the end of the day, we all are concerned about the safety of our kids. And I tend to believe that this motion that we've made now with the SROs and that the sheriff and the Board of Education come up with an MOU, for the most part, takes us out of the equation. This is now we're charging the sheriff
Well,
with
plus,
that.
their second motion at that meeting was to support the idea of the sheriff's department hiring school resource officers.
Yeah, well, that-
So this sort of
it-
speaks to their second motion.
It does, and then it also pulls us out of the equation.
Right.
The funding issue has been taken care of. Now the details will be worked out between the sheriff and the Board of Education. Tag, you're it.
I don't think he's buying you dinner.
Okay.
Please, next.
Item 2B.
We're not.
Or what?
Mr. Rudd, Code Home Rule Bill 4-13.
Right. This is the amendment to the zoning code dealing with G1s, adding some additional uses by special exception. The current bill adds, I guess it was 9 different types of operations to that. There was discussion last meeting about basically amending that bill. I have prepared an amendment to that bill which would limit the uses and everything but the greenhouse and nurseries to total square footage of all buildings utilized to 2,000 square feet. So assuming you want to entertain that amendment, it would be appropriate that you vote to amend the bill as it's been written, and then you would vote on the amended bill if you so choose.
Okay. Gentlemen, I'd like to make a motion that we amend Bill 4-13 to the description that
What I said.
the attorney just said. Is there a second for the
Second.
amendment?
Second?
It's been moved by Commissioner McKay, seconded by Commissioner Valentine. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Gentlemen, I would like to now make a motion that we approve the now amended Bill 4-13 for the zoning, for general urban G1 zoning district. Is there a second?
Second.
It has been moved by Commissioner McKay, seconded by Commissioner Brody. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. All right, item number 3. Mr. Kale, request permission of solicit bills.
Hurry up, Paul, you're holding us up.
He was on the other, he was on the other side before.
I'd like to make an amendment to what he's saying.
I just hope there's no motions we have to.
Did you say, I'm sorry, did you say what I was supposed to do, or?
Yes, sir, please.
Okay.
Item number 3.
This is Phase 2 of the Rawlings Water Project. Phase 1's under construction, it's about half done, it's 1.6 is Phase 1. Phase 2 is a continuation going out towards Rawlings, it's $800,000 we're proposing to do Phase 2. So we're asking permission to advertise for bid. We're almost complete the design.
Gentlemen, any questions?
No, sir.
Okay. I'd like to entertain a motion to authorize the Public Works Department to advertise the Rawlings Water Project Phase 2 for bids. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Is
Then
it-
second.
It's been moved by Commissioner Valentine, seconded by Commissioner Brody. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Mr. Kale, item number 4.
Item 4 is exciting. If you recall, this happened quicker than we thought. If you recall, during PACE, we discussed a $5 million project. At that time, we only had $800,000 in our hand. We do not have positively 100% the money in hand, but it looks like all indications are that when we sign documents with the state, MDE, and USDA, that we'll get all the remaining funds. It'd be total $5.4 million project, and we'll be getting about $4.2 million, so it's about 80% would be grant for this project. And it looks like that it is going to go through. And as a result of us getting this funding, and it's going to move through quickly, we've scheduled a public meeting for August 7th out in Rawlings to let everybody know what's going on and to hear their input and see where we're going. We had a meeting there probably 6 months ago or so, a year or so, and everything was pretty positive. from the
And
community.
Paul, where will the meeting be held at?
That's
the church?
the church, and I forget what the name of that church is.
I think, is it the Methodist Church?
Rawlings United Methodist
Yeah,
Church.
I think so.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah. But we'll have advertisements ahead of
All right,
time
good
and send
deal.
out letters.
It's where I broke down here a couple weeks ago.
Did you?
Yeah. But Commissioner Valentine came to my rescue again.
Your car broke down?
The brakes went out in the van.
Not you, the car broke down. Just clarify.
Yeah, that's correct, the car.
They couldn't handle the weight.
All right, I'd like to entertain a motion to authorize the county commissioners to sign the final phasing for the funding documents of the Rawlings Water Project. Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved by Commissioner McKay, seconded by Commissioner Brody. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Item number 5, Mr. Gale.
You'll note Dave showed me his shirt. Next week's the fairs, I guess it starts Saturday. They've already started some pre-ceremonies. What this is for, we're asking for permission to advertise for a caretaker's house. There was a house there years ago that was the caretaker's house. We tried to renovate that, or looked at renovating maybe, Dave, how long ago?
4
was that?
years ago.
And when we looked at that building, there's no way we could repair it. It was beyond, so we had to tear it down. We plan on replacing the new caretaker's house in the exact same location. We also have pictures of the old place. We hope to duplicate that as much as possible. We'll do some of the work in-house, but we'll go through a company and advertise for bids to put a new office out there, or a new building out there. What this will do, it will enhance our security out there. We do have some security. The Sheriff's Department routinely drives through that area, and we do have some security measures out there, but this will put a full presence out there. We have a lot of investment out there. And also to help our fair manager out there, he spends a lot of time going back. He opens at 10 o'clock in the morning, and he spends the majority of his day out there, so that he'll be able to move back and forth easier. So really help out everything. And we'll work closely with Kevin Kumoff, our fair manager, on getting this building erected.
Okay, wonderful. Gentlemen, I'd like to entertain a motion to authorize the Public Works Department to solicit bids for the caretaker's house at Allegany County Fairgrounds.
So moved.
Is there a second?
And second.
It has been moved by Commissioner Valentine, seconded by Commissioner Brody. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you. Item number 6, gentlemen, is the Educational Cable Channel Agreement. Mr. Rudd.
This is hopefully going to be simple. Finally, after many years of negotiations, starts and stops, we now have an agreement, and if you guys pass, it'll be in place, among the City of Cumberland, County Commissioners, and the Board of Education related to the PEG, or Public Educational Government Access Channel. This is a channel, of course, through Atlantic Broadband that's provided through both the franchise agreement with the city and the county, and the Board of Education will operate this. It's limited to educational purposes only. PEG stands for Public Access, Education, and Government. For a lot of reasons, a lot of discussions, we're limited to education only at this time. That's the only thing the board will be operating, will be responsible for, and the agreement sets forth liability and responsibility and all these things. So,
Okay, gentlemen, I'd like to entertain a motion to approve the educational channel agreement among the Board of Commissioners of Allegheny County, Maryland, the Marin City Council of Cumberland, and the Allegheny County Board of Education. Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved by Commissioner McKay, seconded by Commissioner Brody. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Mr. Everly, what do we have on our consent agenda, please, sir?
Commissioners, this evening, we have 7 items under the Administrator's consent agenda, 5 of which deal with procurement, 4 of which deal with the acquisition of new vehicles and the surplusing of old vehicles. We have our annual workers' comp renewal agreement in the package for your review tonight, in addition to the Safe Streets grant award that we would like to enter into with the City of Cumberland to access funds for an assistant investigator for the State's Attorney's Office. And last but certainly not least is an agreement to amend the current MOU with State Highway Administration relative to the development design of a modification of the Allegheny Highlands Trail. And that is in a location, Valley Street Bridge. Adam Patterson's been working on this project now for 3 years, and we believe that the realignment of the trail in the Valley Street Bridge area is long overdue, and Adam will be back before us in the coming weeks to take that project to bid.
Gentlemen, I'd like to entertain a motion to accept our consent agenda.
So move.
Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved by Commissioner Valentine, seconded by Commissioner Brody. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Do you have anything on your desk, Mr. Everly?
A few things, Commissioners. No correspondence this evening, but just an FYI, on our meeting in 2 weeks, I'm going to ask Commissioner Brody's assistance in this, but the 3 vehicles that we declared surplus this evening, the larger dump trucks from the Roads Department, he has volunteered to identify 2 of the best vehicles that we have that have some usable life left in them, so that we can transfer the title of those vehicles to the towns of Westernport and Barton.
I believe we'll have them ready for delivery by their next council meeting.
Wonderful. All right. Mr. Rudd,
nothing further.
appreciate you being at the table today, sir. You
Thank you.
kept me straight.
Yeah.
It is a big job. That's why I've got the big pants. All right, Commissioners, anything on your desk? Commissioner Brody.
No, sir. As always, the calendar is online. I believe we've had about plenty enough discussion tonight. The one thing I would like to say is I hope everybody comes out and enjoys the fair this week. With that being said, sir, it's getting close to supper time.
All right, Commissioner Valentine.
Not to give Creed a heart attack, I have another motion to make. There has been an ongoing battle between the Board of Education and the Board of Commissioners for probably the last 20 to 30 years about the ex officio member of the Board of Education, which is a designated county commissioner, having the ability to attend their executive sessions. As we read the law, it very clearly says that the ex officio is a full member of the board, just does not have voting privileges, and it clearly seems to say that the ex officio should be able to attend the executive sessions. About 2 months ago, I guess it was, Mr. Rudd and I had a meeting with Dr. Root and the attorney for the Board of Education, discussed this matter, told them we wanted to have a decision once and for all. At this week's Board of Education's meeting, they had changed their protocols that would have allowed the commissioner to attend the executive sessions. If something is felt to be something that the commissioner definitely should not hear, if there's a conflict of interest, the Board of Education would ask the ex officio to leave, which is exactly what we had asked. Their study committee had taken a look at it. Their attorney had taken a look at it and suggested that's the way the protocol should read. The board, however, said, no, definitely not. We don't want a commissioner in our meetings. Therefore, and this is Mr. Rudd's wording here, the following motion was to be made on July 11th. The county commissioners shall direct a letter be drafted by council and sent to the Allegany County Board of Education advising the Board of Education that unless the board rescinds its policy allowing participation of ex officio member of the Board of Education in executive sessions of the Board of Education by invitation only, that the Board of County Commissioners will file suit in the Circuit Court for Allegany County, Maryland. This suit will be to enforce the right of the ex officio member to participate fully as a member of the Board of Education, including attendance at executive sessions of the board. This is being done as much for all future boards of education and boards of commissioners. This has been an argument for long enough. We feel the law clearly states that the ex officio should be in those meetings. So we hope that they will again discuss this and agree. If not, sadly, we'll have to let the court make the final decision on this.
Do you need a second on your motion?
I definitely do.
Second it.
Don't try to amend it.
And
The motion has been made by Commissioner Valentine and seconded by Commissioner Brody. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion. No?
All good?
Motion carries. Okay. Ms. Linda. Thank you very much. Remind everyone about the fair, which is starting on Saturday. Understand that Tuesday and Wednesday will be our highlight of our musical acts that are coming out. The commissioners will be inviting everybody those 2 days. I have called for dress rehearsals for the songs we're going to sing this year. Two of the commissioners have not been showing up to rehearsals. So I am prepared for a solo act this year. And, well, I have to remind you two gentlemen that last year when we started and we all agreed that we were going to sing You Are My Sunshine,
No, you agree.
you guys
thank you, Bill.
you guys took 2 steps back and put bags over your head. Now, maybe that has to do with harmony or something like that, I don't know, but just so we're prepared.
It was more of embarrassment than harmony.
No, I can carry you guys. It's okay. We can do this. Laryngitis? Okay. All right. Okay, gentlemen, remind everybody about our next public business meeting, which will be Thursday, July 25th, 2013 at 5 o'clock right here in room 100. I do hear Mr. Rudd's stomach growling, so we must close this meeting, and I appreciate everyone's interest in your county government. Thank you and good night.
Don't run off. Oh, you already signed it. Okay. Okay.
May I borrow your blue pen? It was fun.
I know this is the school board.